Hello, everyone. How are you today? We good? Welcome back, my brother. I'm always surprised when Eric returns and joins us here. But it's good. Today, I don't know. I lost 1 hour of sleep, so that's bad. But apart from the lack of sleep, I think the weather today is very good. I woke up today and I'm feeling joyful, feeling grateful. Maybe the word is not overjoyed, but content is the one. I'm glad to be back here to share a few of the word of the Lord with all of us, and hopefully you all can be blessed. But today, yes, I want to talk about this, the glitch. The glitch means it's an anomaly, something that doesn't quite work as we expect it to. And something that we expect to run bottom up, it becomes upside down. So, sticking to the theme of the glitch, let me open this by sharing a bit with my struggle lately, actually. I think I've shared this for quite a lot of times in here or in personal conversations with some of us. I've worked and built certain softwares that we actually runs now in our financial institutions. My job lately doesn't actually involve building softwares anymore, so much as training people to actually maintain it. So it comes to a point where it becomes it's a people management job rather than a technical job. I don't know if I should be grateful for it or should I curse it. It's a mixed blessing, I have to say. Now, one thing that I feel a bit disappointed lately is that the people I've to train to run the software I've built has a really wrong attitudes to start with. When we build something, if it doesn't work, we find out why it doesn't work. And then once we know why it doesn't work, then we can fix it. Pretty simple. But then once we fix everything, we hand it over to the other teams, and the other teams go, let's run it. But it makes sense from their perspective. When they haven't built it, they don't know what the software is supposed to do, what it's supposed to be doing. When it fails, what's what I do? There's a lot of questions marks, And guess what? There's a lot of things that went wrong, even though we've actually detailed all the process. I know Cipto here works with quality assurance. We had quality assurance as well, and we have to detail every freaking things in that documents. Everything. And once we tell everything, we give it to them and the softwares. And then they still go, why these things doesn't work? And I go, have you read? Actually, there's a funny acronyms in our field of work, which is RTFM. Read the bleep manual. So we always ask them, when you find something that doesn't quite work, have you done your homework? Have you RTFM? And quite often they say, we've done it. And then we go like, well, if you've done it, then it's impossible. You should know what you should be doing, right? And then they go, no, we don't know. I was like, okay, come over, show me what you've done. They go, I do A, I do B, and then I do D. And I go, what happened to C? Have you done to C? Have you done C? Oh, what is C? What is C? It's like, bro, read the manual again. It's like, oh, okay. A bit disappointing. But these are the groups that we have to actually hand over to. I always scratch my head. It's like, should I say goodbye or should I say good luck? It's a tough call. But that kind of inspires me to talk about this, the glitch. When we talk about the glitch, we have a system. Yeah? Without the system, there can't be a glitch. Now, what is the system here that we are expecting? This is what I want to talk about. The system. Let's open our Bible to Proverbs. I want to anchor this on the talk about, in Proverbs talks a lot about wisdom in I think it's Greek word. It's called hokmah. If we come from Indonesian background, we know it's very similar to the word hikmah, but it's hokmah. It means the way to live properly, full of responsibility, and you can carry yourself as adult. That's hokmah. But hokmah stems from Proverbs 1, verse 7, that says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge," or hokmah. "But fools despise wisdom and instruction." And then if we want to read a bit further, we have in Proverbs 1, verse 32 to 33, it says, "Fools will die because they refuse to listen, and they will be destroyed because they do not care. But those who listen to me will live in safety and be at peace without fear of injury." And so, if we want to be wise, we have to fear the Lord. If we don't, and we don't want to listen to it, we will be destroyed because we do not care. And if we don't listen, then we can't be at peace. We will face injury. And in Proverbs 3, verse 7 to 10, this is quite a good summary for the whole book, actually. "Don't depend on your own wisdom. Respect the Lord and refuse to do wrong. Then your body will be healthy and your bones will be strong." So essentially you have a good life. "Honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits from all your crops. Then your barns will be full and your wine barrels will overflow with new wine." So if you honor the Lord and you do good, you will be blessed. Basically it says, your life will be good, you will be blessed. And these Proverbs, actually, on top of this principle, the rest of the book of the Proverbs builds a lot of sayings, like the wise sayings that we quite often find in those greetings cards or encouragement sayings, lots of TikToks, whatever, or Instagrams. But this is the core of the system. Fear the Lord, and you will be blessed, and you have a good life. Now this introduces us to these two principles up here, which is the first one, God is just. Yeah, we all believe this. God is just. And the second one is the principle of justice, or what I'd like to also call a principle of recompensation. It means for every good deeds or bad deeds that we do, there is an equivalent or proportionate reward/punishment. Yep. That's exactly what we read here. Fear the Lord, and your life will be successful. Now, interestingly, when I read through this, there's also another two books that talks about wisdom and this principle. The first one is the book of Job. In the book of Job, it actually introduced the third variable here, which is human innocence. Yeah. Remember the book of Job is actually pretty interesting because the author tells the reader about God's dealing with Satan, and then Job's innocent. Yeah? And then Job met his friends and say, well, if you are innocent, you can't be having such a bad life. You know, we all know what happens to Job, yeah? His family died, his sons died, his daughters died, I think his possessions and his house all burned down. And then his health deteriorates badly. And then his wife cursed him and said, leave your Lord. Why are you still worshiping him? He had a bad life. Really, really bad. And then his friends came over. Yeah? There are 3 friends. And they all actually come to this. They have the same principle. God is just. And there is a principle of justice, which infers that Job can't be innocent. But we as the readers have been told that Job is innocent. Yeah, it's quite interesting. We are told and we know that Job is innocent, but his friends don't. And so this formed like this triangle of balance where we go, if God is just, and the principle of recompensation or justice is correct, then by definition, Job can't be innocent. But this is something that we fail to realize, or something that come to realize, is that these 3 variables can be true all at the same time, according to the book of Job, isn't it? Is Job innocent? Yes. Is God just? Yes. Is the principle of justice or recompensation still holds true? By God's answer, or by the conclusion, is yes. So these 3 can all be true. And so this actually becomes a quite an interesting area to delve in. Well, I don't know if I should call it interesting, because if we dive in, it gets really depressing, actually. So welcome to the dark side. Let's strap up. Fear the Lord, and your life will be good or blessed. It's a great system. I want to believe in it. But if you've lived long enough, you know that this system is not entirely true. Yes? Who agrees with me? It's like we tell the kids the number after 1 is 2. But when we get to uni, you learn, oh, hang on, there is 1.5. What is this? We thought the earth was flat. Yeah, and the church burns people who thinks that the earth is round. And then the scientific proves that the earth is round, right? And then everyone believes, yay, the earth is round. Good, mind blown. Well, who would have thought 1,000 years later, we thought, oh, hang on, maybe the earth is flat again. It's crazy, it's crazy. But that's what we're gonna look at today, which is quite interesting. Because life, well, I don't know. It's not life. Faith in Christianity and in God is not cliched. When we say, oh, fear the Lord and your life will be good, and comes along people that says, well, I've feared the Lord all my life. I've walked with Him. I've tried to be good Christians, but my life's still in jeopardy. What happens? And the Bible actually writes a lot of, well, not a lot, but compared to the 66, there are few books that deals specifically on this topic. And so we want to turn into this. The book's called Ecclesiastes. Now in this book, which is exactly the book after Proverbs, people or the scholars agrees that the book of Ecclesiastes is actually written by Solomon. There are other speculations as well, where we thought that maybe the author of this book is not Solomon, but one of the wise men in his court that adopt his persona. And apparently, during the time of Solomon's reign, this style of writings in the king's court is quite common. So, regardless of who the author is, and this book actually introduced 2 personas. Yeah, there's the author, and there's the teacher. Well, the word for this teacher is actually called Koheleth. It actually means the one who gathers people. And this gathering's purpose is to listen and learn. So the people, the person who actually gathers the people to listen and learn is quite accurately translated as teacher or preacher. Yeah, so if you open up in Ecclesiastes 1, it says there, it is the words of the teacher. And it says there, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, yada, yada, yada. So, a bit of the intro of the Ecclesiastes book. But this author introduced us to the teacher. And the teacher, in turn, introduced us to a few rather disturbing facts about life. Yeah. The first one is this: the march of time, the very thing we cannot win against. So if you open up in Ecclesiastes 1, verse 3 to 11, we can read the whole books in probably an hour max. It's quite a short book, but let me read it out for all of us. Verse 3. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow to the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, "Look, this is something new"? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So, what can we sum up from all these chapters? If we want to get really, really down and honest, it kind of means our existence doesn't matter. Is it? Like, things that we've done we think is new, but it turns out it's not. Things that will come will be forgotten. In the grander scheme of universe, we are but a tiny blip. And I have to say, this is quite true. Even the Bible has examples of this. If we open up in Exodus 1, verse 1 to 8, what does it say there? It talks about the beginning of story of Moses. But it starts with Joseph. Joseph he took all his families from Canaan to Egypt, and they live well and prosper there. But then verse 8 says, verse 7, eventually Joseph died and all his brothers passed away. And verse 8 it says, then it came a king of Egypt, or rose a king in Egypt, who doesn't know Joseph. Joseph was a great man. He marked the history. He saved the Israelites from the famine. And the Egyptians as well. But in a few times passed, and then it's completely forgotten. Do we think what Joseph did doesn't matter? According to Ecclesiastes, it probably is. Now, that's probably a bit too far in the past, but I want to give one more examples from where we live now. April 2015, there was a protest in the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Yeah. This university had a statue in the campus. And the statue is of a famed 19th century imperialist called Cecil Rhodes. I don't know who this guy is. But if you're British, maybe John, you probably heard of his name, but I don't know him until I read this history. his name actually, his name was actually the one being used for both the northern and southern Rhodesia. Nowadays, it's called Zimbabwe and Zambia. Yeah, it's respectively. So the northern Rhodesia or southern Rhodesia is named after this guy. Now, this university had the statue of Cecil Rhodes because Cecil donated his land for this university so it can be built on top of it. It's good. But in April 2015, there was a protest. About what? The student who've been rewarded with a scholarship, it's called the Rhodes Scholarship, for exactly the same reasons, wants the statue to be torn down. And we go, why? Because apparently they think the statue of Cecil Rhodes now is actually a symbol of colonial aggression and white supremacist. So it had to be torn down. I read this and I go, what? What? Is this true? You went to a university that was built on top of this guy's generous donation so that his land can be used or can be used, you built the university on top of, and you actually got to this university because this guy invented a scholarship so that nobody is actually barred from education because of their skin color. And then you said, this guy is a symbol of colonial aggression and white supremacists. It's a bit disheartening, but this is 2015. Cecil lives about 19th century, so it's about early 1900s. I don't know what happened there, but if I go and read Ecclesiastes, it all makes sense. It's true. Your existence or our existence, probably a small speck of the dust. And we can't actually win against this. Who can live forever? Nobody does. Nobody does. We try to make our marks in our lives, in other people's life. And then maybe you don't have to wait 1,000 years. Wait 100 years. People will have forgotten about us. The march of time. And we can win this. Which brings us to the next point. We are all going to die. It's sad. I like you can actually laugh at this because this is a very depressing book when I read about it. And the question is, maybe not a question. Let's open up to Ecclesiastes 3, verse 18 to 21. Yeah, we're all going to die. Verse 18, let me read it out. I also say to myself, as for humans, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. Surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. Who knows if the human spirit rises upward and if the spirit of animal goes down into the earth? We all die. And Ecclesiastes 9, 1-4 makes it a bit more worse. It says, so I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands, but no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. Chapter 9, verse 2. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so is with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The heart of people moreover, are full and evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterward, they join the dead. So, the good and the bad, there is no uglies. They all die. We fear the Lord. We don't fear the Lord. We all die. What's the point? What's the point? This is, I don't think I have to actually do any examples of this because we're all quite clear what it is here. The righteous and the wicked, we all die. And this is the last one. That life is actually very, very random. In Proverbs rule, there is a clear causation relationship. If we do good, then we will be blessed. If we do bad, then we will suffer. But the teacher of Ecclesiastes observed that life doesn't always work these ways. If we open up Ecclesiastes 8, verse 11 to 16, to 11 to 14. Yeah, to 16 is okay as well. I'll read it out. When evil people are not punished right away, it makes others want to do evil. Yeah? It encourages people to do evil. It's true. But here's the kicker. Though a sinner might do 100 evil, things might live a long time. I know it will be better for those who honor God. I also know it will not go well for evil people because they do not honor God. Like a shadow, they will not last. Sometimes something useless happens on earth. Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. I say that this is also useless. So, why are we here? Why are we even worshiping the Lord? Why are we even have faith in God? But this is actually a very good segue to actually touch on the other things. This passage, in the what the teachers reveals here is that, yes, he says, I believe that honoring God is true. It's good, which means he believes in God. But he also doesn't actually preclude the existence of evil. And this is the classic topic of Christian debates with the atheists. It's the problem of evil. If God exists, why there is a lot of evil on this earth? If there are God is just, right? If God is just and God is fair, then why do humans suffer? Why there is cancer on the little kid's body? Why there is an animal that its sole purpose is to drill out of a human's eye so that it can live? That's like the definition of evil. But God exists and God created these things. Well, and so, that's the implication because God created everything. And so by definition, God is cruel or God doesn't exist. But without going to philosophical depth, I think the teacher in this Ecclesiastes actually says, yes, God exists. But his existence doesn't preclude the existence of evil. What we define as evil can coexist with God. Because this is what happens. Bad things happens to good people, and good things happens to bad people. And we say, why? Why? That's a good question, because I don't know the answers. Now if we go into the Ecclesiastes 9, 11 to 12. This passage talks about life being unfair. Yeah, not just God and evil can coexist, but life is unfair. It reads here, chapter 9, verse 11. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to be learned. But time and chance happens to them all. Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come, as fish are caught in the cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare. So people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. So we can prepare a lot. We can learn a lot of things. We can train hard to win our race. But sometimes the trophy doesn't go to the well-trained. We study hard. That dream job is not yours. Yeah. Why? According to this book, it's all time and chance. Life is random. Life is random. And I think what we can learn out of this is we can't master life. If we try and set our path to master our life, we are set for failure. Yeah, and all these three, the teacher eventually sums all these disturbing things in life as meaningless or useless. But not quite. Yeah, it's like 1 and 2. After 1 is not 2. There is 1.1, there's 1.2, there's 1.3, and so on. It's what we call hevel, the original words. It doesn't mean meaningless. It doesn't mean useless. Hevel means smoke or vapor. And so absurdities probably comes closer to what it means. Hevel is smoke. So when the teacher says life is meaningless, or richness is meaningless, fame is meaningless, or pleasure is meaningless, it's talking about hevel. Hevel means smoke. Can we see smoke? Yes. Can we produce smoke? Yes. Is smoke beautiful? Well, depends. But we can see smoke. It's not that it doesn't serve a purpose. Yeah. You know, there's a tribe that, there's a military, this is ancient military technique with smoke to call for SOS. So smoke is not meaningless. Life is not meaningless. Richness is not meaningless. It's just hevel. So when the teacher says life is meaningless, it means life is hevel. It's smoke. But when we try to grab smoke, we fail. Or when there's too much smoke in our lives, or in our surroundings, we can't see the future. It becomes a fog. And so hevel here, that means smokes and vapors, doesn't imply that life has no meaning. It doesn't say that life is meaningless. It rather say life is probably have a meaning that we can't make sense yet. And if we actually read the entire passage of this book tries to anchor that the meaning of life is hevel. If we try to anchor it in richness, in fame, in pleasures, even in wisdom. It talks about wisdom. Proverbs talks about wisdom. And then it says, if you anchor your life on wisdom from God even, it's hevel. And we know this. Why? Because Solomon was the wisest man of his age. Maybe up till now. I don't know. But Solomon was the wisest. And what did he do? His wisdom that, quote unquote, comes from God did not stop him from being an apostate towards the end of his life. Yeah? Solomon still failed. So life is hevel. Wisdom is hevel. But it doesn't mean life is meaningless. It just means that life is fleeting and uncontrollable. So now that we know all this, what do we do? Do we become atheists, or we just switch to hedonists? Of course not, because the teacher always says, those things are also hevel. You'll find nothing there. And so in response to this, I want to propose these two things. Well, not me, but the teacher. Yeah, it may sound like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's a cliche thing. We don't know what it means, so just enjoy life. But not really. This is more than a cliche things. Yeah? The Bible actually talks about this. Let's open to Ecclesiastes 2. verse 24. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 24. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfactions in their own toil. These two, I see, is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless or hevel, chasing after a wind. So God says, you can't do nothing better than to eat, drink, and find satisfaction in your own toil. Yeah? God also says, in enjoying life, and we open up chapter 5, verse 18 to 20, it says there, this is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfactions in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them. For this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. Enjoy life, because our capacity to enjoy life is also a gift from God. Yeah? I have one more. Read this. This is like the best advice in the most condescending manner. Let's open up Ecclesiastes 9. Chapter 9, verse 7 to 10. Go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you're going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. Yeah? You have a short life. You're all going to die. Enjoy it. It's sort of sad, but it's really actually not fulfilling, but it's some sort of redemption as well. In the verse 18 to 20, or the last one that we read as well, it also has an undertone of saying, stop worrying. We can worry too much, but we cannot actually make our life longer, or we can't actually fight all this. Life is hevel. And in actually the last verse there, in verse 10, it also says, whatever your hands finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of death, there is no more working. Yes, that's true. It applies to work, but it also applies to the things that we talk about, like carpe diem, or you only live once, whatever. But I want to take that a bit further, because we talk all about that. In serving the Lord, whatever you find your hands to do it now. Do it now. Because when we die, there is none of these things anymore. None of this. So if you want to serve the Lord, do it now. Do it now. If you find something to do for the benefits of people, for God, for your ministry, do it with all your hearts. Now, when we live. Because when we die, there is none of these things anymore. Yes, we can say, yes, when we die, we still go to the church, worship the Lord. But hey, I'm not going to discount the fact that nobody has actually went up to heaven and come back to tell us, yes, we will worship the Lord when we die. Yes? None of us have done that, or none of the people have done that. So, do it now. Do it now. The second one, I want to say to you is that apart from enjoy life, is trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. All this hevel actually comes to us and says, you have no control. We have no control of life. In fact, the only things that we can control is the present, the current moment and our attitude towards it. What can we do about it? That's the only thing we have control. Nothing else we have control over. So let's talk about this trust in the Lord. It's actually interesting in Ecclesiastes 6. So chapter 6, verse 10 to 12. It actually talks about, I don't know anything about God. Yeah. It says here, whatever exists has already been named, and what humanity is has been known. No one can contend with someone who is stronger. The more the words, the less the meaning. And how does that profit anyone? For who knows what it is good for a person's life? During the few and meaningless days they pass through like a shadow. Who can tell them what will happen under the sun after they're gone? So the emphasis here is on, for who knows what is good for a person in life during the few meaningless days. And then we actually quite like to sum it up as well. The answer is, God only knows. Which also means, I don't know. But God only knows is actually the appropriate response. Because when we say God only knows, and we don't know what's good in our lives, and we say, trust the Lord. We don't know what's good for our lives. But hey, someone knows. Someone knows. In Luke chapter 11, verse 11 to 13. If the Lord of the teacher is the same as the Lord that we worship now, this is why we can trust the Lord. Who knows what's good for us? And in Luke 11, it says, which of you fathers, if your son asks for a fish, will give them a snake instead? Or if he asks for an egg, you will give him scorpion. If you then, though you are evil, know what to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven? So the answer to the trust the Lord is really, yes, God only knows. Because that's the appropriate response. Not because it's synonym to we don't know. But it's synonym to God really knows. So it's about living our life knowing that God knows. And go even further than that, that trusting that God knows the best for our life. This is the enjoy the life and trust the Lord. Now, after all this, what the teachers actually tells us, the author actually says in chapter 12, verse 11, it says, the word of the teacher is like a staff with a goad. A goad is a pointy end at the shepherd's stick. It pokes you and it hurts. But that hurt is in the hope that the flock actually move in the right directions. Yeah. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 12, the author comes out and sums it up. It's a good conclusion. But before we go to the conclusion, there is one more point that we should actually talk about. It's just one verse. We read there in chapter 12, verse 12, which is the last chapter of this book. It says, be warned, my son, of anything in addition to them. Of making many books, there is no end. And much study, where is the body? Now, if you're a student, this is a great phrase. Yeah? Why study so hard? Because it wears down our body. No more studying. But no, that's not what it means. The author of this actually realized that these 2 points, that enjoy life and trust the Lord, which we've actually conclude from our readings by the teacher, maybe the response, they are the response to Havel, but it's not the answer. Yeah? It doesn't answer why bad things happens to good people or vice versa. It doesn't answer our pain, struggle, and our existential questions in our lives. But it's a good thing because, it's a good thing that what says here. The author warns us, stop here. Stop here. This is the end of the wisdom. Beyond this, there's nothing. If we have struggled with our lives that we sometimes question God, why? Why this happens to me? Haven't I done all the things, all your commandments? Why this happens? The author says, stop here. You can read all the books you want. You can try to exhaust yourself trying to find the answer. But there will be none. There will be none. Be humble enough to trust the Lord. That life does have meaning, even though we can't make sense of it. Now we want to go back to the story of Job. We, the reader of the book of Job, knows the answer why Job suffers, because the author tells us so. But Job never knew why he suffered. Even towards the end of his story, after he say, well, you all my friends who come to me and say, I'm guilty, you all can piss off. I will come to God and stand my case, and He will agree with me. And so what happens to Job? Eventually, God came before him and say, hey, Job, just like you ask, here I am. And Job starts accusing God of all the bad things that happened to his life. But guess what? Did God give Job the answer? No, God didn't give Job the answer. He actually tells Job, hey, Job, if you think you know that you are right and innocent, God actually says, why don't you run the universe just for a few days in my stead? Instead of me, you run the world according to the principle of justice. That for every wicked person, their punishment will come immediately. And for every good things, for every good man, you will reward them instantaneously. You run it for me. And you tell me if that's actually the wisest things to do. And then Job actually says, yes, Lord, I'm wrong. Not because I stand corrected that I'm still innocent, but because I've challenged you in your wisdom. So God didn't eventually tell Job what happens to him. Like why was he suffer? Why was he suffering so much in his life? But eventually, God replenished everything that Job had. His family, his wealth, his health. Everything was given back to Job, even doubled, I think. Doubled or tripled, I forgot. But it's more. It's more. But Job never knew what happens to why. And so this book doesn't try to answer the why either. It helps us how to respond to Havel, but it doesn't tell you the answer. But it's good because it tells us, stop here, stop here. Be humble enough to know that Lord is in control, not us that have faith in Him. We can't make sense of life, but life is not meaningless. It's Havel, yes, but it's not meaningless. We probably just can't make sense of it. Stay humble, trust the Lord, and enjoy life. It's good. Now, for the conclusions, let's read Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13 to 14. This is like once we tell you all this, that the system doesn't quite work as the proverb says. The author actually comes and says this. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusions of the matter. What is the conclusions? Fear God and keep His commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden things, whether it's good or evil. So this book, despite its disagreement with Proverbs that say, hey, hang on, not all people who fear the Lord deserves good things. In fact, sometimes they got bad things or worse things. And evil doesn't get punished immediately. And thus it fosters more evils. And so the systems has a glitch. But knowing all this, his conclusion is fear God. Fear God. Fear the Lord. This is the conclusion. Because this is the only thing that's the duty of all mankind and the only thing we have control over. So despite his disagreement, he says, go back to the system. Because this is a good thing. For fearing the Lord may not guarantee you to have a good life, but it's the best chance you have at having a good life. I think that's what it means. So don't just let it go and go, hey, we all despair here. Not really. Because the teacher or the author actually here agrees that fearing the Lord is still the best thing that we can do. And so verse 14, the last verse of this chapter, actually gives us a bit of hope. Because it says, for God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden things, whether it's good or evil. Now there's one thing to note here. Judgment in our culture has a really bad connotations, like, oh man, we're going to get punished. But judgment in the era when Solomon or these books was written, judgment actually has a good connotation. Because it means what the good deeds I've done will also be rewarded fairly, fair and square. And so this verse 14 actually gives us the hope that yes, life is hell. And yes, there's a glitch in the system that not all good things happens to good people, but sometimes good thing happens to bad people and vice versa. But towards the end, God will bring every deed into judgment. And so that brings us a bit of a hope that we can actually say, yes, Lord, I will trust in you. And so with that, that's the glitch of the system. And I want to close with prayer. Let's bow our head. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for your teaching today. We thank you that we can come before you. Read these small books that you have blessed us with, and to actually read and know that our faith in you is actually grounded in reality. We're not faith that just glamorize itself in the best possible outcome. But you also know that we have to contend with the darkest depth of reality that sometimes doesn't line up with our expectation, doesn't line up with our limited understanding of who you are, your wisdom, and what you have planned for us. And so God, let us learn as you have taught us to enjoy life, the good, the bad, the big and the small, because this is also a gift from you that we can enjoy this short life that we have on this planet. And our Father, may we live our lives with an open arms, fully trusting in you, that you will give us the best, although we can't see it now, but we know and we trust you, that you will also a good Father who knows what's the best to give to his sons and daughters. And so God, once again, teach us to fear you, to keep your commandment, because this is the duty that you have given us in our lives. Help us stay faithful to you, and help us be prosper. Through your lens, through your blessing, and through our lives and walk with you. Thank you, Jesus. We pray that may your teachings make us better persons than who we were before, and we can march forward knowing that you will always be with us. Thank you, Jesus, and in your name we've prayed. Amen.